for diclofenac. Okay, we're actually into probably an hour of our class, and I forgot to record it, but that's okay. We're in their 9th class. We have one more session of 10, and we're kind of going over and reviewing how much has been learned at this point. And we've talked about conjunctions and their meaning, and we've interpreted them in the charts of ourselves and children in that case, and their meanings. And right now we're at this point in this discussion of trying to understand what oppositions are in your chart and giving an example of what it means. And so Jeremiah has an opposition that he just spoke of, that he has of his sun to Saturn and to Uranus. So the sun is opposing. Okay, so Jeremiah, how do you interpret that?
For me, what I see is like, especially if it's in my 11th house, my 5th house, and just by reading the sun, and then it goes against Uranus and Saturn. So it's like basically I'm gonna have, like, now I see it different. Like I'm gonna have a hard time of, like, I guess, communicating to people my ideas, or they're gonna fight against it.
Okay. One of the things that's going on with the sun is ego. It's your need for acceptance and for praise and for recognition in your life. That's what the sun's all about. The sun wants to be on stage, not necessarily in the sense of really a stage, but it wants to be the center of attention. And it being opposed to Saturn in Uranus means that there's been a great amount of denigration of your sense of your own worth in life. You've had to struggle to achieve a strong sense of your identity and your value. Because Saturn is constantly, remember, it's called the accuser of our brethren. He who accused our brethren before God both day and night. So you've had to battle a lot of things in life that have involved accusations, finding fault with you, and having to deal with kind of hurting your heart. That's the sun, okay? And you're a very sensitive guy, and you've got a lot of intellect, but it's not easy to express all that because that's opposing the sun. The sun is your creative ability. And what sign is your sun in?
In my 11th house.
What sign?
Well,
what's your sun sign?
It should be Cancer and Gemini.
Okay, so what is Cancer? Sensitive, emotional, very deeply feeling. Okay, so with Saturn opposing it, this represents the father figure opposing your life and having an impact on your life that's not necessarily the best.
Man, hey, Saturn did a number on me, boy.
Yeah, you gotta tell me about it. So you tell me about it.
Now, I guess, like, man, just for me growing up, it's like, to everybody it seems hard. I guess, like a way of it. Like I see it as an evolve. Because even though I've been through a lot, it just like, it seems like it was, like, I guess at the time, I guess it was a lot, but now it's like, it was just like, dang, it was like a big barrier that could break a couple of people, but then again, I'm still here and I'm better for it.
There you go. But see, you've managed to understand that all things are working together for the best in your life. That takes a lot of wisdom, and it's a breakthrough for you to come to that conclusion, and instead of regretting and hating and feeling all this kind of hard feelings towards your father and the things that you went through with him, you're able to forgive all that because you recognize that it was for your highest good.
I know, that's crazy you brought that up, because I just barely like met my sister, and then like, and other family members this past weekend, And it's like it seems like they're a lot more emotional than I am.
Yeah. Well, it's not that they're less emotional, I think, or more emotional. Part of it is you've learned to harden yourself to the hurts in your life. You become tough in a rough exterior, but inside you're still a very soft, wonderful human being. And you've had a lot of difficulty because very often that harsh exterior doesn't communicate well because it's misinterpreted and people don't see the soft guy inside of you.
And that's what you were saying when you were talking about his what was it? Just right before this, I can't remember because I had to go tell the kids to be quiet. But you were saying that he's been through like a lot of hardships where he's looked at so like accused or that he has been judged his whole life from every situation, from being a child and work, wherever he is, he's always been misjudged. And so that's what
Exactly.
made me think of that.
That's what that does. That's what Saturn does when it opposes the sun. So let me get some light over here. Good. That's a little better.
I was
So-
gonna say one more thing too, when you were talking about his dad, because Jeremiah doesn't share. He's used to me sharing for him. So what we realized, so Jeremiah growing up, he doesn't think of anything as like he went through anything. To him, it's just like I am who I am. I went through what I went through. But go
I
ahead.
just think me growing up, I always had a set of friends I went to go chill with. We just rode around, riding bikes, doing, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, he was disassociated from it, and that was the best thing that could have happened to him, because had he really been aware of those things, it could have been a different outcome, right?
Well, part of it too is Uranus is sitting there with Saturn, which means that the accusations, the accusing Saturn, he found relief in what? Uranus. What's the Uranus rule? Your friends. You see that? So
And he has that in his companion house. It shows it. It's in his 11th house. That's right. Companions.
with his friends.
Yes.
Exactly. The house of friends. Uranus is the ruler of that house. It rules all those things. So his escape from those harsh realities was friends. Okay, it could have been gang members, could have been anything. It's whatever family he could find that could fill that need for affection and recognition where he could get recognition, whether it's being a tough guy or being, whoever he had to be, he could play that role. So he's like a chameleon. He can change that role to get acceptance whenever he needs to. He's very good at that. Okay, so there's a good scripture. I love one scripture. It says, I think it was Paul in the Bible. He says, I become all things to all men that I might save a few. Did you hear that? That's an amazing scripture. I become all things to all men that I might save a few. In other words, to the reprobate, to the prostitute, to the to the educated, to the preacher, the priest, he becomes everything to all of them because he wants to save them. He wants to rescue them. He wants to bring them the truth. So whatever it takes to get and communicate on that level, he'll do it. If he's got to stoop down to the level of a prostitute to get her to understand and start to see and communicate, that's what it took. I become all things to all men and all women. And so he's got a mastery of that in a way. He's really good at communicating, even though he doesn't think so. He's really got a good way of communicating. And he can reach down to people that other people can't communicate with, which is another gift he has.
That's what I've told him. I said, I said, people like you, we don't see people like you in astrology. And it's going to take somebody like you to reach people like you. Like only you can help certain people. And I always remind him of that, like your story, your struggles, like everything you've been through, and even your spiritual journey. that's something that people can listen to and change their lives from. And I always remind him of that, because he, sometimes he's like, well, he doesn't like to talk about emotional things, because he's like, what's the point? To him, it's like, there's no point in talking about things like that, like looking back at it. And I always tell him, because it can help somebody. And that's why you went through it. So you can help somebody else.
Very good. That's right. That's right. Well, you have a keen understanding of him. Obviously, you know him better than anybody knows him. So give me some light on you, okay? At least.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, hold on.
It's just a little dark there, okay?
Open that back window up a little bit.
My daughter turned the light off. She came in here and came back out and turned it off. That's better,
Yeah,
right?
that's a little
Okay.
better. Yeah.
So what I was saying real quick, to go back to that, because you brought up his dad. We actually realized that Jeremiah and his dad lived very much parallel lives. They were both raised by their grandmother, and his dad went off. He went through a lot of stuff. He didn't have his dad. His mom didn't want him. He was raised by his grandma. He kind of had to depend on friends and doing the same things. However, at a certain age, he went off and started, taking care of himself and doing what he had to. And I told Jeremiah, like, we realized, like, wow, like, you and your dad had very similar paths, and you broke that because you broke out of that and you didn't continue. And so in a way, he's kind of saving his dad in my eyes, because
Dad.
yes, because look, because instead of holding like hate in his heart for his dad or anything for his dad, he feels a sense of like compassion and understanding, because even though he's seen his dad maybe like 6 times in his life, that's it. And even though, after this weekend we were talking, and it was great. It was great hearing Jeremiah was asking people questions about his dad. He wanted to know more about him. He just wanted to see like how he can relate to him, hear funny stories, right?
Yeah.
And he, at the end, I said, you know what, Jeremiah, so I'm gonna say something that's kind of weird. I was like, but I'm gonna say, because he thinks anything emotional is weird. Vulnerability is weird to him, but he's working on it. And I said, but it was great meeting everyone, but it really felt like there was a missing piece, like your dad was missing. And this, we don't know his dad like that, and we never see him. And he said the same thing. And he was like, yeah, he's like, I really did feel like that, like he was missing. And so when he shared this, he met his sister for the first time. They were having a conversation, and a lot of people were sharing, your brothers and sisters have issues with your dad because they feel abandonment, all this stuff. And Jeremiah's like, I understand that, but at the same time, he went through his own thing too. He was going through his own things. Like, who am I to like be mad at him? Like it's what it is. Like, what is that going to fix? And by saying that, he put that thought in his sister's head, who lives with a lot of that daddy issues of like the feminine, like, craving for that, the father figure. And but you know what? She sees it in him though, in Jeremiah, because the way they connected, it was very instantaneous. And they actually are very much alike. She's like his feminine energy, and he's the masculine. They're very much alike. It was really weird. But it was, something that only through astrology you can like learn these things that you can put in your life.
That's true. Yeah. There's one thing about astrology, you'll never stop learning. You'll never stop learning. Every chart's a new chart. Every chart's a new, absolutely, there's not another one like it. And so when you approach it, I've been doing this for how many years? Many years, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. I don't know, maybe more. But the thing is, I still, when I draw a chart and I have a new client, there's still anxiety in me a little bit. Like, will I really be able to pull all this out of here? But once I get into the chart, it begins to speak to me. It's not like, oh, I did the chart and I know everything that's in the chart. Okay. It's not that way. I start doing the chart and I start looking at aspects, and all of a sudden it's talking to me. It's trying to tell me something. And so when it was like when we were doing your boss's brother's chart and looking at that and trying to see what's in it. And you see this cross, and that cross is Mars and Saturn and what was the other planet in that cross? The sun? Yeah. So there's a message in there somewhere, and it's talking to us, and it's speaking, it's saying something here. This is a crisis chart. There's a crisis here. There's a Jupiter conjunct Saturn, which is 10 degrees out of orbit. It's a little bit out of orbit, but it's still there. Usually we use 8 degrees, it's 10 degrees. But still, it's trying to talk to me. It's saying, look, don't disregard this. There's something going on with that Jupiter Saturn. To me, that represents I call it and again, I'm not getting medically into this person, but it's an aspect of conflict between depression and optimism. That's Saturn is the view is dark, and Venus, and Jupiter's it's the brightest can be. So I call it for simple terms and explanation, a manic depressive aspect. People have very high highs and very low lows. So when you're doing charts, you're going to see that's what it does. Once you start doing the chart, you say, well, I don't really know much to do a chart yet. You know more than you know, but it's going to only come out of you when you start doing the chart. It's like if I teach you to swim, I can talk all day about how to do a stroke and how to kick and how to keep your head so you can breathe, but it won't mean anything until I throw you in the water, and you'll swim or you'll drown, but you got to get wet and you got to get in the water. So that's why I'm encouraging you guys, keep doing the charts, even though you don't understand them all. Studying, show thyself worthy, as the scripture says, and study and understand. So let's keep on going a little bit.
I have an opposition. Oh, go ahead, Jeremiah.
I was saying that's cool because we're like looking for charts, and then I found an Elvis Presley chart. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's really neat things out there to work with. One of my last students, which she's a gem of a student, by the way. I recommended a book to her. It's called The Circle Book of Charts. And she bought it on Amazon. I think it was only $5 or something. I'm not sure. And you might want to get it because it's hundreds of charts compiled by a couple of astrologers. And the charts are there, all of them. And you can look right at them. And there are people that most of these charts are going back 20 years, maybe, and before they start. It's not like real all current, but things like Elvis Presley's chart and Queen Elizabeth and all those, you see it already. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So, that it's worth getting. And she's really into a lot of people's charts of like Queen Elizabeth, Queen.
Oh, yes. This was the person you were telling me to connect with.
Yeah. Vanita,
yes. Hopefully I can connect with her.
You should. She's really a sweetheart, and she's very, very loving, very knowledgeable, and she's very good astrologer now.
Yes, please share my info with her.
Yeah, well, you do that. You just Vanita, let me let me give you some information on her. She'd be happy to communicate with you.
Okay, awesome.
And let's see, where's she at? Let me go over here. Okay.
I ordered the book. There was only one left, and the rest of them were $45. So I ordered it for $5.
Yeah, good. You got it. Good. Yeah, that's wonderful. You did it real quick. That was great.
Because yesterday when you told me to order, or the other day when you told me to order this book,
I see you got it already.
It only had one left, and then when Jeremiah went to go look, they were $30, and I got this one for $12. So
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm not paying $30.
No, you did well. You did really well. I'm so pleased you got that. That book's been a companion of mine for years when I was in prison. It's just little things. As you're going through the book, you'll find many things that just help round out your astrology and understanding. So, okay.
Yeah, we got to look through it, and it seems really great.
Yeah, there's a wealth of information there. Let me see if I can do this.
I believe I'm reading that before I read the Bible, man.
Yeah, okay, here's her, Vanita, here's her phone number, she doesn't mind it. Maybe I shouldn't do this on the phone, I mean, on the video.
Yeah.
Just, I was gonna say, just text it to me if you can, Rob.
Okay, I will,
That's fine.
okay, so,
I was
let's
gonna
see,
share one of my oppositions.
okay, go ahead.
I have, so. Wait, okay, sorry. I have Mars opposing my moon. It's 9 degrees, but still,
good.
and from that, it makes me think that I am somebody who I could have a temper, potentially.
Absolutely.
Okay, I could probably, I think, like because when I've seen it, it has to do with like nervousness, what else? Because I feel like it has to do with like a lot of nervousness I have, as well as like, potential like having like fears that I have, maybe like even some of the stomach issues I have from my nervousness. Also just kind of having like self-confidence issues. I don't know, am I on the right track here?
You're doing real well.
Okay.
First of all, Mars afflicting the moon, just alone is over acidic stomach. Okay. Remember, Mars is acidic, it's burning. Okay. Saturn is a different influence when it's afflicting the moon. It's much more cold. It can be hard growths and inside the female, cysts, things like that. But the main thing with Mars will oftentimes, when you're young, when you look at a chart like that, the baby, which is the moon, will run high fevers in their lifetime as a child. And the parents will struggle with that because the metabolism burns things out very quick with Mars and the moon. The other thing is you always want to be aware of is the potential for, always get your breast examined, things like that. Okay, because that can be a problem. Okay, that's potentially.
I was gonna say it has to do with also like the female organs, like my ovaries and.
Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that about a couple of weeks ago, and I've been telling Jeremiah I need to go get. I just got insurance, so I was like, I've been saying it, and then I saw that, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make sure that I'm going and
Get
taking it.
everything tested. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So because the moon rules all the female organs, and and it is, as you said, it's the problem with the moon opposition Mars is not so much you do have a good temper, okay, but you tend to repress everything and keep it hidden and down, and that causes internal problems. Okay.
Yep, I've dealt, yeah. So, and I also, wouldn't it also have to do with something within my childhood as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mars could have been experienced as a child, and these are your formative years of your development and childhood. And it could have been things. It could even been sexual abuse. Things that are. It could be violence, or it could be aggression, could be fear. Imparting fear in you. Mars does all those things, and
I'll take all of the above, and it's in my 12th house, which is the secret where you have your past lives, right? So
good.
that could potentially mean that I had a lot of violence in my past lives.
Karmic things, yeah, absolutely. So, these are all, there's so much psychology in all this and trying to uncover, if you would, the myriad of meanings when you get these aspects. Then you add the house position like you just did. And then you add the signs, what they're in, things like that. So if you take Mars, what sign is Mars in?
Sorry, I mute in between. Mars is in, hold on. Mars is in Virgo.
Dang.
Your moon is in Pisces?
No. I mean, yeah, my moon is in Pisces. I don't know how you knew that. I guess it's the shift of where they are.
Well, the opposite sign would have
Yes.
been. from
Yes,
Virgo
so
would be Pisces.
Mars is in Virgo, which I am Virgo rules stuff like has stuff to do with your stomach and digestion. So that
Exactly.
is right, the acidic stomach. So yeah, Mars is in Virgo in the 12th house, and my moon is in Pisces.
Okay. So, these are, first of all, Pisces moon is a water sign, which is good. Okay. Cancer is a water sign. It rules that. Scorpio is a water sign. So
I
these are,
forgot that. I'm sorry. I didn't even notice this earlier. My Mars, because I'm still getting used to the fact that even if it's in a different house, it can be conjunct. So my Mars is actually conjunct with my Sun in Virgo. They're both in Virgo.
okay. So you were born a full moon child. Is your sun and moon opposition?
Mhm.
How many degrees is your sun?
My Sun is 2 degrees in Virgo, the 11th house, and my moon is 17 degrees. So they're not in direct opposition.
Well, but they're wide orbit, still a wide orbit.
Right.
You're a full moon child, basically. You were born just the day before full moon. So that gives a very high spiritual side. It also gives a very psychic side. And very, very high emotional development. These are reaching at a point of the full moon of awareness, which gives a strong introspective life. Somebody that really can shed light on their subconscious mind from the conscious mind, which is the sun. Soul is the sun, or soul is the moon, rather, and the subconscious is all the moon energies. So when you take the sun and put it in opposition, the sun is shining all of its light, trying to understand and give light into the subconscious mind. So you're real good at understanding psychology. That's a psychological chart. Okay. You could have been a psychologist.
I studied psychology.
So
I love psychology.
yeah,
I like to talk about emotions. I like to talk about like why people think a certain way. I love talking about stuff like that. And it's funny because I also have Uranus Neptune conjunction, which what you're saying, Uranus, and so that's really interesting.
well, that's the natural psychologist, that's a sign of that. So, there's many, you can see how much you can pick up in a chart. It's quite amazing when you look at it. So, okay. So what does the moon rule? Let me ask you, Jeremiah, what does the moon rule?
So
Good. I like that.
feminine, the Holy Ghost.
Good. Look at you. Look at that.
Yeah, the Holy Ghost.
Okay. So if you had a moon affliction, then you're going to be looking at in a natal chart. And remember, now we're talking about what affects the moon in a chart, and the natal moon. This is important. I have an old friend that just sent me an email and said, Ron, he says to me, go ahead.
Man, that's crazy that at least that her little moon Mars situation. I have my moon Mars situation.
Same moon Mars?
Dude, yeah, my moon is in Virgo. And my Mars is in Pisces. That's weird, dude. Who does?
Ours are swapped.
That is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and with not only that, like our Jupiter and our Venus have very similar alignments. We have a lot of we have a lot of stuff like that we were noticing. I was like,
Yeah.
we've done lives together many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, those are good polarities when you get them opposites like that. Yeah. You know, they say
Yeah.
opposites attract, right?
Yeah, definitely. But what were you saying, Ron, about your friend's email?
Well, no, he just sent me an email today and he's got Parkinson's disease. I've known him for many years. I bought his wedding bands for him and his wife years ago. And when they were, before they were getting married, he spotted them in a window. He says, "Oh, I love those rings." So I got them as a gift for him on his wedding. But the thing is that his name's Phil Sorrentino. He's a motivational speaker, a very talented guy. So he sent me an email today. He said, "Ron, what's going on? My transit Neptune is opposing I think he said his son." And I've got the email, I could look at it. And so what's that mean? What's that mean? You know? So here's the thing I want to say to him, and I'll say it to you guys, is that transiting Neptune takes years to move through those signs, you know, and you can't do a lot with those transits. That's why I've been doing this for so many years, and I'm only concerned with transit Saturn. You say, "Well, Ron, what about transit Jupiter? What about this?" I would love to find the formula that, say, Jupiter I could find a formula for that, but I never have. The three witnesses that I use are transit Saturn, progressed moon, and new moons, and that's all I care about. So I'm going to have to disappoint him because I'm not going to be able to give him an interpretation of Neptune opposing that. Because to me, if you took all those transits, Uranus, Pluto, and try to interpret those against the natal chart, you're going to go crazy. I mean, you know,
Would you say that they become very generalized?
Yes.
And
yeah.
it affects the accuracy of what you're saying?
It does. It also is not only generalized, but it can apply to almost anybody, these kind of things. You know, I'm not too keen on it. Like I do transit reports for somebody, and I'll do it just as a complimentary thing when I do a reading. And you know, it's the transits do all that. They interpret all these things, and they can use them and enjoy them and maybe find meaning in them. But when I want to find something really important in a chart, I'm still using the three things. So when I get back to him, I'm going to be explaining to him it's not that vital. And but he's got leukemia, and he's also got Parkinson's disease, and he's in pretty bad shape. And he wanted me to do his chart probably a year or so ago, and I wouldn't do it. And I don't usually refuse, but he's
Saturn every 7 years, Saturn I get that's what hits me.
You got it. You know that. See, yeah. Well, that 7-year cycle, very few people know that, but I mean, if it's a 28-year cycle, and the progressed moon is also 28 years, the new moon is 28 days. I mean, that's when I got it. It clicked on me. I said, "Look at this. It's trying to tell me something." Maybe because I'm born on the 28th of November, you know.
28. We learned about 28 in numerology.
Did you?
We learned that 28 can produce a lot of wealth, like a lot of millionaires and billionaires. They will go and have their children on the 28th. They'll get married on the 28th. But from what we've heard, it's not necessarily a good thing. If you're going to get married, if you decide to put your marriage on the 28th, then your marriage takes a backseat because you're only worried about wealth in that marriage on that, because you're using that date. 28 is a pretty powerful number in all of things like that. So
yeah, well, I missed the millionaire thing.
You were born on the 28th for a reason, though, because you became a great astrologer.
Because look, you're on the 20th, but you had a Saturn, so you're about that wild money. So you had to go on Cowboy, get your money.
Yeah, I did. You're right. Yeah. I thought I had it coming. But you know what? Like, you know, Let's kind of stay on course because I
Can
get.
I ask you a question
Yeah,
about,
go ahead.
okay, so grand crosses and grand trines, all of those things, they're aspects, but is there a name for those? So when you see a grand cross, a grand trine, is there a general name for them? No?
No, they can be, for example, Grand Cross, it can be in cardinal, fixed, or mutable signs. There's only three times four is what, 12? There's, you know what I'm saying? Like if there's 4 planets in a cross. So they can be fixed. If they're fixed, they're a little bit more difficult to change. They're stubborn. People have grand crosses. If they're in fixed signs, very often stay in relationships when they shouldn't. You know, they're just locked into them. It can be because of circumstances or because of fear of change. Mutable signs. I have a mutable cross, grand cross, a mutable one. You know, I'm very easy. I can adapt about anything in my life. I've been, whether it's prison or whatever. There's a scripture says,
So I'm guilty of it.
you are too. You know, well, you know what it is? That
So,
whole thing with the crosses, like the mutable cross in my case, my solution for a problem is leave. So, and I've been married to a woman that's got a lot of fixity. So when I'm ready to leave, she's
like, you ain't going nowhere.
yeah,
That's
you got
me.
it.
That's what I do to Jeremiah. He has a similar thing. I mean, you ain't going nowhere. You stuck for life.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Oh,
funny.
man.
So,
Yeah, the mutables want to run away.
so is there something, so what I've been trying to understand also, Jeremiah has all the planets in his chart.
Hey,
So
man, hey,
when you see something like all the planets in one chart, what thought would come to your head? Like, what is something that when you see something like that, you think? Like, is that classified as something when you see all the, because I haven't seen that in only his chart have I seen. I haven't seen a lot of charts like
What do
he,
you mean planets? All the planets in his chart? You mean they're spread about?
yeah, he has all of them.
Oh, you mean they're spread around the chart?
Yes.
You know, it
Now
just makes for a lot of dynamic activity because you got squares and oppositions going on. And you might have grand trines going on. You might have all sorts of aspects. You got to
Okay.
remember that if the planets are in first degrees of the sign, a lot of them, they're going to make a lot of aspects with one another. If they're in the latter part of a sign, for example, and you see that everything's running around 28, 29 degrees, then you know that you look around the chart, you say whatever else is in 29 or 28 or 1 degree of the next sign, because those are going to be following those aspects. What I'm trying to say is that don't worry too much about whether I've seen interpretations of that. They call it a splash chart, you know, and different names. I'm not big on that. I've seen many interpretations with trying to understand a chart because everything's over on one side or the other, you know. I'm really not too big on that. I'm really big on aspects. That's what's talking to me. Those aspects are, you know, it says that it says, what does the scripture says? It says there's the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Night unto night showeth knowledge, and day unto day out of speech. Now listen to this. Now there's no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Moreover, by them is thy servant warned, and in keeping them is their great reward. Their line, their aspect basically, their line goeth out throughout all the earth. So they're trying to tell you the aspects. That's what they're talking about in Psalms. The aspects, the line goeth out through, and keeping them is a great reward. What does keeping them mean? Knowing their positions. Okay, so you know, I've been in this business for more years than most. Okay, and I can just tell you, learn to read aspects. Read, and there are a lot of aspects I haven't trained you in. Okay, you're going to have to learn yourself. For example, the semi-square, half of a square. That's 90 degrees is a square, but 45 is a semi-square. It's same message as a square. Really is. You've got 152 degree aspects, or 50 or 72 degree aspects, for example. That's a 5-pointed star if you make them around the chart. 72 degrees between each point. So I have a star in my chart. Okay, if I move all the planets around, I took a student of mine to see that once years ago. But the point I'm getting at is there's a lot of other aspects, and the 72 degree aspect is kind of a magician. Somebody that can be. I remember somebody reading, one of my students brought it, said, Brian, I noticed you've got this star in your chart. And I was reading the meaning of the 72 degree aspect, and it can be the criminal or it can be the saint. It can be the criminal or it can be the magician, And I says, really? She drew a chart of me and showed me, and I've been studying astrology all those years, even in prison, 9 years. I never saw that star in a chart. It's easy to miss those aspects because you're not the typical aspects. So I want you to keep on studying your aspects, okay? The different ones, the smaller ones, not just the quintile. If you read the cosmic key to interpretation, there's a lot of stuff in there besides reading the charts that I did to show you how it works. There's a lot of pages in there about understanding, for example, the 150 degree aspect. That's one side of an opposition. Okay, an opposition is 180 degrees. If you go one side of that, either side of that, 30 degrees, you get 150. Okay, and that aspect, I've learned is very associated with death, for example. So when you see that, when you're reading the cosmic key, go through those pages that are written in the back. There's a lot of stuff about that aspect. Okay. And it'll really help you understand some of the minor aspects that are so important. And when you're going through the cosmic key, you'll find out that aspect appears in many, many death charts, many of them. And it's usually called a yod. That's 150 degrees on both sides. You got 3 planets making a yod. Okay, if you have a grand trine, you got 3 planets making 120 degree aspects. If you have 1 planet over here and 2 over here making a yod, that's why it looks like a Y, then that is a yod, and it's very powerful. So I want you to start to try to learn those things, those aspects. And what's that?
Like in your book, it says that's that finger of death. Or death or something like that.
Okay, so let me keep on. Okay, let's go through. I want to go through a few of these questions quicker. What does the moon rule? We did that. Okay. What Mercury afflictions would you get? How would you interpret a Mercury-Mars affliction?
Oh, I guess I guess you'll have a hard time of communication. Or if you communicate, you might just come out there aggressively or something.
Good for you.
They
Okay.
need to be more physical.
Like I have a Mars-Mercury affliction. It's square. I stuttered till I was 14 years old.
Get over here. Get over here.
Jeremiah, you're not muted.
Oh, snap. My bad.
He thought he was muted. Sorry.
That's all right. So I stuttered till I stuttered till I was 14 years old. Oh, look at that. It's a beautiful dog.
Thank you.
That boy was supposed to be a mini boy. That what came out of.
He's a loving dog, I can tell. Okay, so if you have Mercury, Saturn, Mercury afflictions, what do you think that might cause?
Mercury, Saturn.
I feel like physically it would be like arthritis in your hands, potentially.
Okay, it can be slow of speech. Remember in the Bible, Moses was speaking to the God in the bush, and he said, he said, I'm slow of speech. Can you give me? I'm not sure I can do this job. And he gave me Aaron as a mouthpiece because Aaron was a very good speaker. So Mercury, Saturn causes fear, locking people up in fear of speech, fear of talking, fear of being in public, talking in public. These things
Probably like hardships with education.
can be exactly hard to learn. Yeah. So a lot of blocks with that Saturn.
I see it as like you have to be, when you're messing with Saturn, like I know about Saturn, man. So you gotta be structured and disciplined with Saturn right there, man. That's a full-on soldier. So when you're dealing with Saturn, that's what you have to deal with.
That's true. I like that. Yeah. Saturn requires that discipline. So, okay. So let me keep moving on. What organ does Venus rule?
Your intestine. Not Venus.
Kidney.
Oh,
Kidneys.
Good. You got it, kidney. Mama got the right answer. Okay. So what do you think how would you counsel somebody who had Venus afflictions, heavy ones?
Venus, I think they'd have an issue with like affection in their life.
Good.
They probably need to work really hard for some kind of peace in their life. They may have money issues depending on what it's an affliction with. Like for me, I have good Venus, conjunctions, but one of the things is Venus is like you like to eat sweets, so you have like, you got to control that. So that I feel like that would be another affliction, indulging.
You know what? You did the perfect interpretation just now. You did the perfect interpretation of Venus afflictions. Okay. And what's the first thing that happens when you these old astrologers didn't know anything, right? They talk about Venus rules the kidneys and Venus rules sweets. Okay. So if first thing that goes when you have diabetes is the kidneys.
Yep.
Tell me that's a coincidence. 2,000 years ago, they knew this stuff.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. Man, I don't even want to get started on that, man. My mind, hey, well, that's a whole nother story right there.
It is.
I was also gonna say that Venus, like, I remember when you told us, like, when Libras have like some kind of affliction with it because Venus rules them, that it has to do with like their marriage or like, like the contractual, afflictions.
You got it, girl. You got it all. You just did a chart interpretation. Look at that.
I love Venus. I love Venus.
So you're supposed to know more about than anybody. You have Jupiter wisdom with what? Venus.
Yes.
You have that already.
I like
it's
Venus.
Part of your nature, right? This is amazing. You just blew me away with that. You covered everything that you need to cover with that Venus just now. I'm real impressed.
Thank you.
You don't realize how much you know. You really don't. So, yeah.
It's like this, like taking off your training wheels.
Say that over.
He said this feels like when you take off your training wheels.
Okay. Okay. So what kind of injuries is Mars associated with?
Like scars.
Good. Sounds like Mars.
Like something harmful. Remember, like she made me do an interpretation on this lady. So she had Mars in her, like for her head, and then like she had like something medical.
He was thinking that he was like, oh, does she have any scars on her faces? And I said no, but she has Bell's palsy.
What is Bell's palsy?
Well, it's where it's kind of like similar to shingles, where you get like, I don't know what it is medically, like I don't know what happens, but Bell's palsy is where like it looks like a part of your face can't move.
Okay, yeah. So that's a good idea of understanding that Mars.
Mm-hmm.
Mars in Aries, Mars in the first house, very similar. So this, and you know, like, I've seen so much. I've seen Mars in Cancer, and I told you about my ex-wife boyfriend who I looked at his chart and I says, my God, you know, what happened to you when you were born? Because it was in Cancer and in fourth house. And I said, the moon, and Mars was afflicting it and from Aries, you know, afflicting from Aries. And his said the surgeon that gave me a cesarean to my mother cut my face when he was cutting her open. And I've still got a scar all these years as a child. So, that's stuff you just can't believe sometimes, you know.
And that's amazing because doesn't Mars also have to do with surgeries?
Exactly.
So it's like he had a scar from surgery.
Exactly. Okay. So,
Man, that goes to tell you how powerful your thoughts are.
and that's the truth. That is the truth. Okay, so let's talk about Saturn and its afflictions and its influence on one health. What kind of problems can Saturn cause in the health?
Back, teeth, depression, well, like skeletal issues.
Teeth, skin.
Teeth, bones. Yeah, you got it, guys. You did it. So it's also, it can be a paralysis too, anything to do with where things are locked up in a sense. Okay, so talk about Pluto inflictions. Pluto's more vague and difficult to read, but it's a lot like Mars, but it can be things that are a little more final, which is like death. But it can also be transformation, regeneration, rebirth. People that go through a spiritual rebirth. So you've done really good. I'm very proud of you. Let me keep on going here. We're going to keep on looking at some of these influences here. Don't forget to read that Planet's Health, Sickness, and the Human Body. I gave it to you before, but stay with that a little bit. Make sure you got it covered, okay?
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. I'll get with you in a second. I have some things here. Okay. I want to just go over a couple things again. I just kind of get familiar. I'm going to just talk about conjunctions. Okay, Mars, Saturn conjunction or afflictions particularly much. What are the major things that are involved in that?
Mars Saturn conjunction.
Or if a heavy affliction, yeah.
Mars.
Okay.
I just see that. I just see when it's like Mars Saturn conjunction is just like it just get Mars giving Saturn more energy to like make it harder for you to everything that you do. You know what I mean?
Well, Mars Saturn can be a hard worker.
Yeah.
Okay. But I want you to think about its negative meaning in terms of Mars Saturn. Mars is what? Is it all good?
No, it's not all good. It's like about like actually like breaking bones, anything that's.
Whoa,
Yeah.
Mars is not Mars.
I mean, like more of like, like I see Mars as more of an intensified energy.
Okay.
So you want to know Mars if it's conjunct Saturn.
Yeah.
So they're good. Okay, so
Or if it's
it would be-
afflicted, yeah.
okay, so like the Mars and Saturn, like more on the good side, I'd say like somebody who's strong.
Could be also, that's good. Okay, so what is the need? Here, first of all, let me give it the negative meaning. Okay, is Mars anger?
Yes, Mars is
Okay.
anger.
If it's
Yeah.
in,
So if it's like an affliction with Saturn, it can be a lot of like anger for a past.
good, did you say the past?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
Saturn holds on to past hurts.
Right.
Saturn likes
lot
to
of-
say Saturn likes to bring up the past and say you always and you never. And anger is Mars. So if you get those in affliction, it can be somebody that is very quick to condemn somebody and to be finding fault with others and get angry about it. Okay. So let's keep on going here. I want you to, let's go to the moon afflicting the sun, which you have, Lisa. What's the sun and moon afflictions?
So my sun represents my physical, and my moon is like my emotional.
Okay, what is the sun sign Leo keyword?
What is I'm sorry?
What's the key word of the sun sign of the sun rules what sign?
Oh, it rules Leo. And so
Good.
the sun
What's
is like
the
your
key-
spirit, your
No,
life,
well,
your ego.
Slow down.
Sorry.
What's the key word of Leo?
It's I am.
No.
I will.
Good.
I will.
Okay, so if listen then, okay. If will is the sun and moon is your habits, what does that interpret as?
As the opposition is that my will, my habits are opposing my will.
Good for you. So what does that cause? Addictions,
Yes.
particularly to food?
I had trouble with discipline in my own life.
Okay. Particularly with what? The habits of what?
Of I mean, there's food addictions because the
Good, I
moon.
like that. That's what I was looking for.
Okay, I was gonna say the moon has food. It represents food addictions.
Good. It's your habitual need for the breast of the mother.
Yes.
I want to nurture myself. I
Yes.
want to
your
comfort
mouth.
myself with food.
Right.
Okay, so moon affliction sun shows that the person generally has a very difficult fight with their habits.
Their eating habits. Yeah.
And they're sometimes addictions. People that have this aspect need to be very careful about things like cigarettes, which is addictive, or food that they're trying to lose weight, they never can because it's a constant battle. So all this is in the chart. It's speaking, okay?
So then also the good thing is that now that I look at it and you say it like that, my father was an addict, so that I'm very, very careful of becoming an addict because he was. And
Good
so
for
it
you.
still presents in my chart that I could have that potential, and that also probably comes from him.
Exactly. Very good. I like that. Okay, so let's go over to a couple other planets and just let's take about the moon afflicting Mercury.
Oh, I see like the moon, like anything. If anybody will say anything like badly communicated towards you, you would take it to the soul.
I was gonna say trouble communicating your emotions.
Very good. I like that. You remember I told you before, I said the moon is the child in you, and Mercury is communication. And sometimes when you see that aspect, it can be immature speech and behavior under emotional stress. For example, people that win at a card table in Vegas and start screaming and yelling and acting like children because they're so excited in their emotional situation. And so they act like very immaturely, right? And my teacher years ago when I was in prison taught me something, said the moon afflicting Mercury can be very immature. It can be like childlike, okay? And it's an aspect that I've seen manifest very often. How about let's go back to Mars and Saturn. If it's afflicting Pluto, those planets, what would that interpret to you?
Man, something like something deadly is gonna happen.
Okay, maybe. It very
Right.
could
It's
be.
like it just be like extra hard work, and you just have like retesting, you just given a rebirth, and you're just evolving as a human being.
Could be. Also, you got to remember that Pluto rules secrets. It rules sex. It rules
Okay.
sexual secrets. For example, if somebody has afflictions with Saturn to Pluto, means the Saturn's the past, Pluto's sex, right? So there's something in their past they may not want to talk about that they've done in the past, they're guilty about. You see that?
I was gonna
Remember,
say that Saturn is also guilt, right?
you got it. Good for you, girl. You're starting to get this, I think. I'm starting to feel you getting it. Okay. So, because Saturn is skeletons in the closet. Okay. Uh-huh. And it's also the denier. It's like it's a scapegoat. It's to blame others. Okay.
It's also a reaper though, right? Like you reap what you sow.
Good for you. Good for you. Okay. And remember, the moon is pure absorption and receptivity. Okay. It's colored by what? The aspects it's making. The moon is pure absorption. So don't think of the moon as having so much, it's like it's got its particular influence. It's bringing influences from the other planets mostly. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, I want you to recognize something, and that's the point of this. And that is that you know more than you know, and you're proving that as you're going along here. Okay. Remember, we talked about the Saturn conjunct Jupiter aspect. What did I call it before? We looked at one chart, just had it. Do you remember what I told you it could mean? The worst meaning of it? Saturn conjunct Jupiter? Help
I
me out.
guess. Well, I don't remember that part.
Remember I told you, what is Saturn? Depression? Jupiter's optimism?
Oh yeah, when they come, yeah, I get you.
So I call it at the worst extreme is manic depressive.
Oh yeah, I remember that conversation. You know, at
Okay,
Boston.
don't forget this stuff I'm trying to teach you. I want you to retain it. Okay.
So when those come to conjunct together, that causes that.
It very often does. It depends on the whole chart and the aspects, but whenever I see that aspect, I realize generally that somebody deals a lot with depression and optimism. They tend to go to extremes. They go up and down.
That's why it's manic, because Jupiter is the optimism, but Saturn's depression. So the fact that they're combined is giving a very manic state.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you should be able to see, you're already starting to get it. So Mars comes.
The way I learn, I can hear it, but I got to talk. Or if I don't talk, then it won't stay.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to be writing things down because you'll retain it better.
Now
Okay.
I get it. It's just like, man, I just don't want to go that deep, that bad deep. You know what I mean?
You've got to if you're going to be an astrologer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Venus conjunct Mars. What do you think that means?
It's like when you love, like you love aggressively.
Well, possibly could be that. In other words, you equate love with sex, basically.
It's bad, like Mars can easily come over there, and it could be like a bad relationship, abusive relationship, a bad,
Can be, yeah, that's good. It could be a lot of conflict. I call it the love-hate aspect.
I feel like it would be good for money though.
It could be. It could be. Depends on
On the
how you get the
aspects.
money. Could be it depends on how you get the money. Mars might take money and do what I did when I was young. You know what I mean? Armed robber. But the point being is, the thing with Venus conjunct Mars is very often you get a very possessive, jealous, hate-filled love. Okay? because Mars is very quick to anger and very possessive and jealous sometimes. And if it's with Venus, means that the mate might be the subject of all that. You understand me? Now, does that mean that every time you see this aspect, it is I find it pretty accurate. Venus conjunct Mars, to me, I can pretty much see that they have love-hate relationships. In other words, their love and their hate are merged together. So
But what happened?
they hate each other, but they love each other. So
So that's the
unless
seventh house.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So if they have a conjunct like that, it'll be in the seventh house, like, or the relationship.
Doesn't have to be in that house. It's just being in conjunction can cause that. Okay. The thing is, when I'm giving you these, I'm giving you their extremes. I'm just letting you know that they're trying to talk to you. It's trying to say something. Okay. Okay. So, yeah. Let's look at Mars conjunct Neptune affliction. Okay. What do you think that could interpret as?
Like Neptune's like brothers, and like you said, brothers and sisters, huh?
Did I say that? I never said that. Neptune?
Not Neptune. Dang. Well, what does Neptune represent? Here we go.
Sorry, one of my children came in here. You said Neptune and what was it, Mars?
Yeah, give me some interpretations of possible affliction, meaning of that.
I guess have like very like compassionate and imaginative. So you probably have like a mean like imagination when it comes to thoughts in your mind.
You know, that's very possible. That could be. It could be that have violent imaginations of hurting people or hurting somebody, or maybe there's a little masochism there. You see, or sadism. But the thing is that you got to remember, Neptune rules drugs and alcohol and sleep-inducing drugs. Okay, Neptune puts you to sleep, and Mars can be an aspect that can cause others harm or oneself. You have to remember Neptune is the planet of the martyr. Did you know that? Did Christ ruled Pisces? Pisces was the age of Christianity. And Christ ushered in that age. And what did he do? He martyred himself. He went on the cross for the sins of the world, right? Am I with you guys or not?
Yes, I'm listening. I'm taking notes because I feel like I don't have enough on Neptune, so I'm writing as you're talking.
Okay. So let me go with this a little bit. Okay. So Neptune rules drugs and alcohol, particularly not so much speed and things like that. It rules the sleepy type drugs, okay? And if it's afflicting with Mars or conjunct, it can cause violence when you're drinking. Person gets drunk, they act out in a way that's potentially violent. They like to fight when they get drunk. You see that? Okay. They also, that is, it very often, Neptune, remember I told you is the martyr. So it can be a suicidal aspect. In other words, I'll kill myself because nobody loves me anymore. Okay. So Neptune can be self-undoing. Okay. It's as I said, it's the martyr. It's why me type of energy. Poor me. Wallowing in self-pity. That's Neptune. That's Pisces, Neptune influence, 12th house. So if it's afflicting something, it can take many forms. Saturn afflicting Neptune can be more self-isolation. Neptune likes to be alone anyway, Neptune, and then Saturn likes to separate everything from themselves, be it a loved one or marriage or whatever. But if it's conjunct Mars, for example, it can be a lot of worry and over danger. Neptune is kind of a hypochondriac aspect. It can be hypochondria, like I get a little pain, I better go to the doctor. For every little thing that happens, it's maybe I've got cancer, that kind of stuff. That's a Neptune. You got to remember Saturn and Mars work similar. Both, Mars is much more overt. Saturn is subtle, a little more subtle. So these are afflictions that can cause hypochondria type of thinking and a feeling that there's something danger I got to worry about, because Neptune can be very worrisome. Okay. Saturn.
I'm sorry, would it be like scandal? Is like Neptune have to do with that?
Oh, absolutely. Very much so. Yeah. Your reputation and all that. So, and
Right.
Saturn, Saturn tries to make you feel guilty and shamed. Okay, I'm not worthy. Remember Peter said that about him when they asked him, aren't you one of them? Aren't you one of the Christians up there? He says, no, he says, no, I'm not. He didn't want to acknowledge that he was part of them. That's Peter. Peter was Saturn in scripture.
Yep, I knew it.
Okay. So what is Peter about? Peter's your sexual organ. Peter, when the cock crows thrice, thou shalt deny me 3 times. The cock, the Peter, got my rocks. That's Saturn rules. What? Rocks, crystals, metals? All those Saturn, those sexual expressions come out of Saturn. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have Pluto afflicting Saturn, it can be guilt and shame, and sense of I'm not worthy. It's the accuser working against you. Anyway, so we've gone through a lot. I mean, I just kind of want to keep you on path. So all we've dealt with is aspects pretty much today. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to start reading aspects. So obviously, if you're doing a chart, you have to work gingerly. You can't start diagnosing and prescribing. You get in trouble if you do that. You're not a doctor, right? So if I say somebody has a Saturn, Mars, I mean, it's rather, if I see somebody has a Mars, Saturn, aspect, let's say a Saturn, Jupiter, for example. I'm not going to say they're manic depressive. I'm going to say it's similar to that energy. I'm not going to label somebody a manic depressive because they have that aspect, but I'm going to tell them what it's like. And generally they'll confirm that, that they're depressed a lot. They have a lot of trouble with the past, dealing with the past and the future. That's what Saturn and Mars is about. I mean, Saturn and Jupiter is about. So what I want you to do is get a sense of the language. Okay. And when you see the moon afflicting the sun, like in Elisa's chart, you know that they're always fighting their own habits and addictions. Hopefully they're not addicted to anything that's drugs or things like that. Okay. But if you listen to the radio show on my site, I think one of the people I was talking to and was doing readings on the air was about this affliction with the sun and moon. And I talked to her about being addicted to habits that are self-destructive. And she didn't acknowledge it. And finally I said, do you smoke? And she said, yes, because I told her she smoked. I said, you smoke, don't you? And she said, yes. I said, that's an addiction. And it's going to cause you lung problems because the Mercury was affected. So, you see these aspects and you can warn people. That's what scripture even says. It's written in the stars so that them that run may read. Okay.
Yo, quick question. Like right now, since I'm reading the aspects, like I have the like the was it transitioning Saturn hitting my eighth house, and my Mars is in my eighth house.
Well, Saturn is moving in. You talk about transit Saturn is moving in the eighth house?
Yeah, it's in there.
Are you sure? Transit
Yep.
Saturn?
Yes, sir.
If I recall right, your transit Saturn was starting to set up a cross on your chart.
Yep. On my,
Remember that? I told you be really careful with that.
He's like 7 degrees in my Pisces and my eighth house. So I was thinking, like you were saying, when you probably read my chart, as soon as he jumped in my Pisces or Saturn, that's when I probably broke my knee. I mean, when I had that injury.
Right. The knees are ruled by Saturn and Capricorn. So, a lot of what we're dealing with when we deal with the transits, we're dealing with transit Saturn. I didn't bring your chart up today. We could have done that, but the main thing is, I can do that real quick, and then we'll.
Yes, sir.
Let me see if I can.
Let
me try to bring your chart up.
These transit hands about to go whoop some kids' butts.
Okay.
That's what I was telling my daughter a while ago. I was like, I'm listening to transits, and these transits are coming for you if you don't behave.
Yeah. But we got 10 more minutes. Hang in there.
No, they're fine now. They're in another room.
Okay. So let me see if let's see if I can get your chart, Jeremiah. I got it real quick here. Okay. So this was progressed, our transit is till May the 16th. I'll bring it up to date. Okay.
And that moon's there.
Okay, let's look at Saturn's at 7 Pisces and it's conjunct transit, that's a progressed moon. Transit moon, not progressed moon. Okay, so it's 7 degrees Pisces.
Mm.
And if we look around the chart, we say, what's going on with that? It's making a trine to Pluto. You see this one?
Yeah.
Pluto's at 9 degrees, almost 10 degrees Scorpio. So that's a perfect trine. That's a good aspect. That transit Saturn's trying to reborn you, give you rebirth, make you transform you. That's what it's trying to do. And
remember, Lee, crazy because remember yesterday, just speak about it. If it's weird or whatever, just say what I.
Okay. So I was shaking my head because he said that. He said that he feels like he doesn't know who he is anymore. He feels like he's changing and becoming a different person. And I told him, I said, well, how does that feel? He's like, if I'm honest, I don't like it. He doesn't feel, it feels different for him, So he's like, I don't really like it. And I said, well, that's change. It'll be, it'll be okay. At least you're acknowledging it and you see it happening versus like if you didn't, you're just aware because you're so conscious now.
Yeah, that's an actually good thing, you're going through a transformation here. Saturn is perfectly it's only 2 degrees away from Pluto, which means it's a couple more months, about 3 more months of this influence, which is a very high transformative energy. Also, not only is Saturn at 7 Pisces making that aspect, your sun, let's see what that's 0.
Is it almost square?
No, it's trying. It went past the trine to his sun 6 months ago. I'm just trying to see, but that's still being influenced by this Pluto. It's almost like a grand trine with that sun. So it's a life transforming energy. It's really a good aspect, actually. That sun is life, right? And then Pluto's transformation, and Saturn's coming up on trying to make a trine out of that. Very good energy. So you're out from under affliction I thought I saw before that transit Saturn. Let me do the progressed moon real quick.
We made a nice transformation. Cause it's crazy. It's like I'm trying to like we talked earlier. We're trying to go around family. You know, get that good. You know what I mean? Like when you're around original family, it like gives you a lot of good vibes.
Yeah.
Kind of, you know.
Well, here's what it was, what I saw. Your progressed moon, I'll show you this up. I'll let you see it here. Let me make it happen here. Okay. Let me do this. I'm going to bring your, okay. Okay, Jeremiah, can you see your chart now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The progressed moon was what I was dealing with the last time I talked. Your transit Saturn's doing pretty nice because that's not what we're looking at here. We're looking at progressed moon. It's at 28 degrees right now. Let me bring that up to date as well. Display progressed. Okay, so it's still there, 28 June, yeah. So if you look at your progressed moon is right here. It's 28 degrees Sagittarius. Your Saturn in your chart is at 29 Sagittarius. Uranus is at 28. So your progressed moon's sitting right on top of your Uranus right now. And Saturn. It's right on top of these two planets. Took 28 years to get here. Okay. So we look around the chart, we say, what's going on with that?
So it started sun. So it started from my sun, and it took 28 years to get to where we're at right now.
It started from the moon.
From the moon?
Yeah, from their birth chart, your moon.
Moon,
Took
all right.
28 years to go around that chart. Okay. So it'll do it again at 56, remember? Double that, 28, 56. So your progressed moon is now sitting here at 28, and it's on top of your Uranus, your Saturn. And it's also opposing your sun. And by influence, it's going to be squaring off to your Mars in your chart. Remember, I told you to be really careful. Now, you've only got one witness. Remember, I've always taught you that you have three witnesses. You don't have but one. I didn't do the new moon, but what I'm seeing right now is the main witness is of only one. If I had two, your transit Saturn doing something with this, I'd be concerned about it. But I still want you to be careful. Be real careful with getting involved. Don't get involved with anybody's conflicts. Nobody. I don't care who they are. If it's your friend, don't be protective. Don't think, oh, I'm going to step in because somebody's messing with my friend. Don't get involved because it can be very and very bad energy here. So
All right,
stay out of conflicts, okay? No matter what, step back. Don't step forward, okay?
Yes, are you hearing him? Are you actually hearing him?
I hope
What
so.
what is somebody's like?
No, no matter what, nothing is worth it. Nothing.
I'm
Whatever
trying to,
your question is, it's a no.
yeah, but you got to listen to me, okay? You've got to be really careful with this aspect because it opposes in your life, your son.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't try to be don't try to be a hero for anybody. Don't be macho. Don't get involved. If somebody's starting something, you stay out of it. Okay.
So that is very transformational. You know, I gotta be,
That is
walking.
transformational for him because he's not somebody who does that. He's transformed over the years. He lets things go, but for him to have to be like you're saying, that is a transformational moment for him. So it also is working with his transit Saturn and trine Pluto.
Exactly. You got it. So, but
while you have the chart up, can I ask a question real quick?
Of course.
Every time I'm looking at these charts, I get confused because, okay, for example, in the 10th house in the progressions, you see how it shows 0 and 6?
Yeah,
Okay, so, and then in the ninth house, it shows 5 degrees, but it's on the opposite end. Is it counting? I don't understand how it counts. Like, I thought it was like 0 to 30, but then I see 0 in the middle. So does it go? I don't know. I don't understand how it is. Like, I thought that you would see 0 degrees on the edge, but they have 6 over here. Is that because it's all within that Gemini section?
well, the signs are going to be changing every minute, all the time. Every 4 minutes, a new degree is going to change. Right now, it's, say, if you look at the ninth house, you got 0 degrees in what, 53 minutes? But those change all the time. They're changing every hour and every minute. But it's not critical to understanding the aspects. The aspects are what I want you to pay attention to. Don't worry about these outer signs, what they are. Really doesn't matter at this point. What I want you to do is I want you to say, oh, this here is all I care about is a progressed moon. And I see it's almost 29 degrees of Sag. So I asked myself, I said, what does that mean? Well, it's coming up on Saturn, and it's already on top of Uranus. So Uranus is unexpected. Saturn is, the reaper. It's opposing the sun. So you be real careful with your health and your life under this energy. It's not an overwhelming thing. It's not like, you got 3 witnesses or something. You've got 1 right now, that's all.
But in the perfect alignment, in the perfect situation, it could still happen because it's
It
unexpected.
could. Yeah, 1 says be careful. 2 says it could happen. 3 says it will happen. If you read cosmically, you get a clean understanding of that. But you guys, I'm not predicting anything. I'm saying just be careful.
Be
Uranus,
aware.
the reason you notice I said friends, this is all affecting Uranus and Saturn. Uranus is your friends. You be real careful getting involved with anything your friends are doing that's not on the up and up. I don't care what, if they're, come on, get in the car, we're gonna go have fun, we're gonna do this. I wouldn't do it. Over the next couple of months, I wouldn't do anything with any friend, quite frankly. I'd be very careful. Because they may get you in trouble.
Yeah.
See what I'm trying to tell you? So, be with your family, stay with your family, stay safe. Don't venture out and try to be, go back to the old friends and get involved with stuff.
That's
Really?
that's very wise of you, Ron, because he's actually brought up his old friends very often recently. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's the energy, right? He's in that energy, and he's been bringing them up a lot lately. So it's kind of just that irony of what you're saying too.
Yeah, I would suggest you don't do anything with your friends right now. I would say you got a family, you got children, you got a beautiful wife. Stay home. Don't rush out, and if somebody calls you, say, "Come on, we're going to go do this or that." I would think twice about it. I'm putting my kids to bed tonight. I'm going to do this. My wife's got things that we need to do. And be a homebody for a few months, or just take care of yourself. Okay, just don't get pulled into anything. That's all I'm telling you. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
And
let
then
y'all go. We've gone. What have we gone here? We've gone. It's 9:30.
2 hours.
We have 1 more class, and I want you to keep studying this stuff. Keep on working at it. You're good. You have no idea how much you've learned. I think you do now. You're starting to see it. You're starting to recognize it.
I just gotta go a little bit on the deep side,
You're in a good position with these transits, by the way, to do that. To get some very deep understanding with all that Pluto energy going on right now. So, you're at a point in your life where you got Pluto, which is in the highest energy right now going on. And if you can stay focused on your life and your development and your spirituality and your work you're doing, don't get sidetracked by any of these so-called friends.
That's
Okay.
funny that Jeremiah has his Pluto right now too, because my progress moon is opposing my Pluto, like exact opposition. So we both have something going on with Pluto right now and progress moons.
Yeah, so I think there's a message in all this, and just don't get sidetracked. You're on such a great path. You're making such progress. You're doing so many wonderful things right now with your life, and you've got so much to be grateful to and for. So count your blessings. Don't go out there and think you're going to relive your past. You know, it's only going to bring you down. Those people aren't there for you, and they won't be there for you if you get in trouble. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. I think I've given you enough lecture. I don't mean to get real lectury here.
No, Jeremiah likes that. Don't feel bad. Jeremiah really likes that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes that. He loves that. That's what he likes, that's what he needs. So don't feel bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I have, Uranus, a different way of thinking, a genius way of thinking is like, when I think, I love thinking about all the aspects. Before I take a step, you know what I mean? Before I step, I love to look at everything versus, stepping and not know where I'm going.
Okay. Well, you've gone a long walk on this path, and just don't get to the point where you think you got to go out and experience the past again. The past is your friends of the past. Okay, they are in the past, and they're not necessarily in for your good. You're good. Okay.
Yeah,
So
but man,
the reason I know that is Saturn's with Uranus in this chart, really strong, and and it's being triggered right now, and it's trying to pull you back to the
yeah,
past.
that's crazy you brought that up, because it's like, I don't know where I learned this quote or I heard it, where they were saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I never knew I really didn't know my dad's side of the family, or I'm never, like, basically, I don't, like, if I were to die, nobody would look for me. So basically, if I'm looking to like the past, that my dad's past, and they're never there for me, so why do I need to be there for them now? You know what I'm saying?
Good
And
for
then
you.
if I do bring them in, it might be bad for me.
You got it, my friend. I don't think it's good for you to go back to the past with any of those associations. I
You
want
know what
you
I'm saying?
look at, you've got a beautiful life, a beautiful wife, a family of children that love you. Don't get yourself in trouble. Okay. I think you know that in your heart that some of your associates of the past are not really doing good things. I think you know that. So,
Well, man, I don't know. Well, all my friends that I grew up with, they're basically not doing nothing bad. They're like just working construction and all that, but
They're
they drink
bad.
a lot.
They drink a lot, they party, they're 35 years old, they party, they drink. One of them, he has multiple girlfriends, but he's married and has 2 kids. So they got a lot going on in their life. And I always tell Jeremiah, if we weren't together today, that's all your life would be, and that's not who you were meant to be. Your chart is a chart of greatness. And I know they got you through a lot. I know they helped you, they helped you in your life and hardships, but
That thing is like,
that's in the past.
oh, if I do like make it big or whatever, and then if I want to give back, it's like, man, they helped me do that. It's like, basically, it's like me giving back to them. It's like, I don't like people's faces. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's a little different. Okay. I don't want you to get sucked into drinking and partying with them and end up something happens and you get in a big fight with somebody because they said something to your friend or did something that you think's wrong, and you end up getting hurt or worse. You understand me? I
got you.
I don't want you to get sucked into any of this stuff. You got a few months of this. Be careful.
Yeah,
That's-
so listen, Jeremiah, say
Yeah,
yes.
I'm not gonna keep going with this, but
Okay, I know we're getting off, but with the progressed moon opposing Pluto, there's nothing, all I see is just transformation, correct?
it has that potential for that. Yes, okay. It does, absolutely, yeah.
Because I feel like when I see that Saturn basically at the Pisces, almost going right there, it's like basically I'm coming into a new energy because you know what I mean. It's almost going to Aries, my number one. It's like I'm becoming a new person, transforming into a new, you know, human being.
There's no question about that, yeah. So look at, this, it's written in the stars so that them that run may read. Okay, so we've read the stars, we've read their interpretation, we're talking to you, they're saying something to you. So it's up to you now, okay? Just exercise that will and do what's right, okay? So,
All right, thank you, Ron, appreciate you. Hope you have a great weekend and a good rest of your night. Send our love to Elena.
I will do that, honey. Okay, you guys take